Hey there, everyone. I'm Cel. That's Miko, and this is Hardcore. Hi, Miko.
Hi, everyone.
Happy New Year, guys. Apparently, we got our math wrong in our last episode, so officially, Happy New Year. This is coming to you on the 2nd. We're recording to you from the past because doing this live would be absolutely impossible. So, hello. Happiest of New Year's. Welcome to 2025. How you doing, girly?
Good. Getting over the hump. But
Amazing.
2025 is going to start amazingly, yes.
It will. Mine is only 6 hours away because I'm in the future, but also in
Oh
the
my
past. Mind
god.
blown. Whoa. All right, guys.
Okay.
We are headed into the second set of locks and keys. This is what the energy of the world is transitioning to in 2027. If you missed the first part of this episode, please go back to it because if not, this is going to be very confusing. We gave a more high level intro and then broke down the four love gates that comprise the locks, and now we're going into the four gates that comprise the direction of the locks, the gates that they've been in for the past 400 plus ish years, and the gates that they will be transitioning to in 2027. And we're starting to feel that energy now. So that was a very long way of saying stop this episode, go back to the last one where we wished you a happy new year incorrectly, and then listen to the rest of that episode, and then come back here. We'll wait. Welcome back! Just kidding. Okay, guys, so we're really gonna hop into this episode now. Miko, give us a high level of what the direction gates are. How is that different than love gates?
So, the direction gates are connected to the cross of the Sphinx, and they are gate 13, gate 7, gate 1, and gate 2. So within the G Center, as Celestina has mentioned, we have the love gates, and they provide you with insights on love on either a mundane plane or on a transpersonal plane. And these direction gates, they are, so gate 13, for example, is connected to, it's called the Fellowship of Man in traditional human design, and it's very much connected to being able to listen to people and their stories. They are also, if you do have this in your chart, you're probably someone where people come to you and tell you all their secrets, whether it's consciously defined or unconsciously defined in your chart. So it's a very powerful gate to have defined if you are, for example, in human resources. This would be a great gate to have because people would tell you their worries, tell you their secrets. But as we know by now, when we're looking at these cycle analysis, or in this case, the shift to 2027, the gates are called differently. So this is an overview that you can see if you're watching of what we've covered last time. We went through the vessel of love gates 25, 46, 10, and 15. Those always remain the lock gates. The gates on the left and right, that if you're watching, those are the ones that are shifting. So all the gates on the left are the keys from 1615 to 2026 or beginning of 2027. And all the keys or gates on the right are the gates that we're shifting into from 2027 onwards. When you're looking at the next screen that I'm going to share, you can see the definitions of the gates. As mentioned, gate 13 is in the traditional human design sense called the Fellowship of Man. However, in this case, we're calling it the witness. And what that means, we're going to explain further down the line. But the important thing is to understand that these direction gates, so the ones that we're focusing on, gate 13, the witness, gate 1, the example, gate 7, the leader, and gate 2, the plan. This cross is what we're focusing on. For gate 13, this is the first lock that we're going to look at. This is the leadership of the past. And that is as in being a witness to something. So you have to look at the past. You have to look at history to be a witness to something. You can't be a witness to something in the future. You can be a witness to something in the present, but that very quickly becomes the past anyways. A witness is in the past. And gate 13 also has to do with leadership. It's a different kind of leadership because the leadership that you're looking at and focusing on in gate 13 is a leader where you look at their past results and see if they've successfully held up leadership positions. And from that, you're then going to decide whether they are a good leader or a bad leader. If they've had success in the past leading positions, you will consider them a good leader. And if not, then as a gate 13, you're not going to consider them a good leader. So from the 13th gate, looking at leadership, because we're also going to be looking at leadership when we're looking at gate 7, which it's literally called the leader here. But I just wanted to make clear that even gate 13 is seen as a leader, but it's in the abstract circuitry. And the abstract circuitry is about looking at the past. So looking at how things made sense, what worked, what didn't work in the past, and from that to draw your conclusions. The logical circuitry, which gate 7 is in, has a very different approach. But let's focus on gate 13 for now. You can see that we're moving from gate 61 to gate 54. And would you first like to add something to the gate 13 theme, the lock of the whole thing, before we move into the keys that we had and we will have?
Honestly, dude, I think you covered it. I don't want to sound repetitive. It really is being able to look at these collective stories, memories, experiences that we've had over the past 400 years, right? Really looking into all of that information, collecting it, and holding that wisdom. But we're going to see what that shift is in just a minute when we talk about the actual keys that we're transitioning from /2.
Feel free to take that part.
All right, cool. Well, I've been given the key. No pun intended. Pun always intended. So within Lock 13, we are transitioning from Gate 61, which is the inner truth, to Gate 54 being ambition. So the theme of Gate 13 as a whole looks at the past, looks at history, and what we are holding near and dear to some extent. Within Gate 61, the Gate of Inner Truth, being in the head center, representing the pressure to discover and articulate these profound truths. So in the past, we were really seeking out those who were able to guide us towards our inner truth, looking externally for that. Whereas the transition into Gate 54, the Gate of Ambition, located in the root center, is more about looking at the past, seeking out those with drive, that inner ambition to bring things to the material plane and bring things into fruition. Miko, I know that there's a lot more that you want to talk about on this, and that was very high level, so let's dive a little bit deeper. I'm gonna let you take the lead.
Also, we were talking about these things behind the scenes, and you were saying things that you didn't mention now. So, for example, Celestina was saying that Gate 61 is currently in line 1. And this is an important thing that I feel like we're witnessing. What I find so fascinating about it is that I feel like we're diving more into occult wisdom, or we have been diving more into occult wisdom the last, I don't know how long a cycle is, 60, 70 years, something like this, like a line cycle. 411 divided by 6. You do the math. Up to 1960s maybe, we were in line 2. And now we are in line 1. And I do feel like these ancient traditions of tarot and runes and even the Rauhnächte that I'm doing right now, these are old traditions, occult traditions. Also the tree of the Kabbalah, for example, in Judaism. Human design is a great example. These are all things that we have been drawn to in the last 70 years, approximately 60, 70 years. And this is how we made sense of history. Yes, we are also using it to make sense of the future, but this is how we've also made sense of history, by looking also at Greek mythology or Roman mythology and things like this. So I find that aspect very intriguing. And I do wonder, so when you're looking at this in the human design sphere, some people are wondering how important human design is still going to be in the future, because this gate is falling away. This gate and this line, 61.1, is falling away. And we're moving into gate 54, like Celestina said, 54.6. And she did mention this behind the scenes. We're now moving into who had the drive in the past. We're looking at the past, and we're looking at the people that we admire from the past through a different lens. And to go through these gates, I find it really fascinating, and I wonder how our grandparents were looking at the world and at history, just for this gate, at history, because all of these locks, they're sharing parts of life. And right now we are in the history aspect, and how people looked at history, looked at the past, and defined certain role models, quote unquote. And yes, of course, there are also always certain role models that are consistently there, that people will always be talking about. But then there are still certain themes that we focus on for every generation. And every generation, or every 60, 70 years, we're going to be looking at history in a different way with different eyes. And I never captured this. Like, I never thought about this until reading about this aspect. How do you feel about it? Do you feel like there was something that was more important to other generations?
I think we see that significantly with like boomers, to Gen X to Gen Y being us, to Gen Z and Alpha. And I think a lot of that societally is deemed by technology, just because we have had such a rapid growth of technology in the last 70-ish years. But yes, I think that people are viewing it, but I also didn't put two and two together. I've definitely, in maybe like since I've been on the roof, in the last like 2 or 3 years, I have felt and seen it and maybe just thought about it more. I think just been a bit more like aware of the presence of generations witnessing, experiencing things differently. I think TV shows kind of make a joke of it, but like back in my day, and people like saying that, but they really do see things differently, or maybe through rose-colored glasses, or maybe through glasses that make history worse. I don't know what that phrase is, but yeah, no, I think that there definitely some validity to that.
For me, this was one of the aha moments where, of course, it makes sense that everyone is going to look at history differently, but to have a generational impact that everyone will see history in a certain way, it makes sense to me. So leave it in the comments below if you can, depending on where you're listening to it, because I would really love to hear your opinion on this. As we are looking at the past, at history, we're therefore immediately, automatically also looking at the future. When we're looking at history through the eyes of who was successful, who was driven, who had the drive, or who didn't have the drive, and who was able to transform nothing into something. So materially, who was able to do that? These are the ways that we're also going to search for our future leaders from 2027 onwards. As you can see, the shift is already happening, or if you can feel it, the shift is already happening. But let's see when this is going to kick in. So that's it, I think, for gate 13. And we should maybe now move to gate 7.
So on to gate 7, gate of the leader, and it is recognized as the leader, if you will, because it holds the role of guiding and directing the collective and representing leadership rooted in collaboration and alignment as a strategic and visionary force. In this transition, we are going from gate 62, the gate of details, which is located in the throat center, representing the ability to articulate logic and patterns through organized thoughts into clear and practical communication, to gate 53, which marks the era of new beginnings. This gate is all about new beginnings, breaking away from collective leadership, from those structures, and to emphasize individuality and adaptation. We're moving from this era of leadership that's rooted in this collective logic to one that is going to be driven by more personal initiatives. So think of it as a transition from putting your faith in your elected official to being like, yo, they really don't have my best interest at heart. I'm going to do me. And I think that that's going to be very interesting to see worldwide kind of happening over the next, I mean, it's going to take a couple of decades for this to happen, but it's starting now. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see this shift. Humanity moving towards a greater self-reliance and greater creative adaptability. Would you give us a bit more on this, Miko?
One of the main points that I found also interesting as a thought process was that Gate 62, as you said, is all about details. And I do think, and I am also one of these people, that the more details someone gives me, the more I'm willing to believe them. So, and as in the more details that I can also check on and look at in hindsight. I'm super impressed by people that can quote others and that can say the names of people that have said XYZ and referring to studies that they have read in date and in names and in content. So I am very impressed by such individuals. And to me, it does give a form of, it's authentic in a lot of, not everyone that is going to provide details is authentic, of course. But when you can then check on these details and you realize that they're correct, it gives a form of authority, to me at least. It makes them seem knowledgeable. It makes them seem like they can really remember a lot of things, which is obvious because you can't do that if you don't have a strong memory. And for me, as a very quad left logical being, this is something that is very fascinating to me. I have the ajna defined. I have an undefined head, but still I'm quad left and I'm loving it. For me, it's it's impressive when someone can do that. I should be able to do that. I can't do that. But it's fascinating to me. And now we're moving to Gate of Beginnings. So it's a very, very, very different kind of leader we're going to look for. We're not going to look for someone who can give us all of the details of things and describe everything in detail and make accurate predictions for the future because of their detailed mind and organized way of being. But we're going to look for leaders who are going to be able to start new things. This is what we want in the next era. We really want leaders who are able to start things new. And on the flip side of that, which we're going to get to a little later down the gates of the Sphinx, we also have the ending that is ending. I find this a bit scary because we're ending something. This is really a time of endings, but at the same time, of course, every ending is always a new beginning. Every door that shuts always has another one that opens. But it is also scary at the same time. But I don't really want to spoil the next gate too much, or the next gates too much, the next locks too much. But yeah, just keep that in mind when we're going to go through the next chapters, because new beginnings, if you're looking at Indian mythology, for example, you would look at Shiva, who is both the destroyer, but also after the destruction, there is always creation. So yeah, I don't know what's going to happen in the next few years. New beginnings. Focus on the new beginnings. Would you like to take over the gate 2 or gate 1, depending on which one you started with?
Oh my god. Yeah, sure. Gate 1. Sounds great.
Scary times, okay?
It really is, though. I mean, I'm just thinking of one country in particular, you know? Scary times. Just one. Out of the 190 something that we have. So good.
No, there are actually quite a few in very different scary ways, but yeah.
Okay, cool. So we're going to go to gate 1. Gate 1 is the example as it embodies creative expression and individuality. It sets an example of authenticity by showcasing how one's unique creative essence can inspire and influence others. So gate 1, the lock, holding this potential for this unique creative expression. And currently we're in gate 32, which is the gate of continuity. This is in the tribal circuit. And I think we may have mentioned this in the last episode as well, but we're really moving away from tribal circuitry and moving a lot more towards individual circuitry. Currently in Gate 32, this gate of continuity embodies preservation, awareness of potential failure, and the ability to assess what is enduring value for survival and prosperity. However, with this transition, we're going into the gate of intuitive insight, which is also in the splenic center, and it represents clarity in the moment through intuition. So with this gate, it's important to note that it's still in the spleen, yes, so we still have this intuition, but it is connected directly through the channel to the throat with the I am now statement. It's the 5720. We're going into this space where we can now express exactly what we are feeling, being present and aware in the moment. And I think that that's going to provide some amazing real-time intuitive insights that we may not have had as a collective group before, or at least may not been able to tap into or as aware of it. So I think that this is going to be a very interesting transition from the previous tribal circuitry, being aware of all, to kind of being a little bit more self-centered. And again, not necessarily a bad thing, but emphasizing your insights, your personal adaptability, and making space for that. So, yeah, what are your thoughts on this?
Beautifully said. Yes, absolutely. So I think this is definitely what we should focus on, that it is moving more into the individual element of who we are, letting your individuality shine. And Celestina just made me realize, which I didn't consciously recognize until now, that we don't only have the 3420, but we also have the 57th gate, which is connecting this drive in the now. So instead of just having the go, 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 go energy that we were talking about in the previous episode, with the gate 57, we do have intuitive awareness of what we should be go, 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 going after. So it's not just that I have to move and go and power through, but you are actually intuitively aware of which direction you should be moving towards. Granted, gate 10 is not there, but at least we have the intuition of what we should be putting our energy towards, which is great, which is good news. I like that news. Even though, yeah, I did read up on the 57 and I didn't really connect the dots until now. So that's always great to have a second eye, second pair of eyes, not second eye. I mean, third eye is also always great, especially when it comes to gate 57. So a very, very, very intuitive gate, this gate 57. And gate 1 is, yes, it's about individuality, it's about creativity, but it is also, in this case, about the example. So which are the type of people you're going to look up at, or what are the things that you consider being an example? Things and or people. What do you consider being an example? So moving from this pressure of having to make it materialistically, being successful on a material plane, being able to pay for your tuition for your kids, for example. So really having this white picket fence house and all of these ideas that were there, this is falling away. This is not what we're going to be looking up to anymore. We're going to be looking up to people and individuals that have this intuition, that have this inner knowing of the third eye. Just work on opening your third eye. And if you don't believe in that, maybe this is your push to look into that a little bit more. So really working on your intuition.
This one I think is very interesting to me because shifting from like long-term preservation to like how you can adapt in the moment, I think is very interesting because past generations have been like, building generational wealth, I'm going to leave you my house. And now people are living in vans, you know? So it's just, I think we're kind of seeing this already. And I think this also harks back to different generations seeing things differently and experiencing things differently, which also makes sense as to why this full transition into 2027, it's probably going to take more than a couple of decades to feel, especially if it's 100 years that we're going to be in this new space, right? Like, it's going to take more than a couple of decades to truly feel. But I wonder if, like, the Gen Zs, Gen Alphas are already starting to feel that. And that's what we're seeing with this. I don't know, like, yeah, man, like, I don't need a house kind of thing. Us millennials just can't afford a house in this economy, but like, it's not by choice.
For
But
me,
I
it
wonder
is.
if, okay, that's fair. I just moved too much, so we're just not stable. But yeah, I wonder if that's part of the transition as well, is like not needing to feel the long-term preservation, or like not necessarily needing to build that wealth for the next generation. Like, they'll figure it the fuck out, you know? Interesting.
Yeah, good point. And this is probably also because you are more tribal and I'm more individual and collective. So I personally was always of the opinion that I don't want and need a house. I don't need a fixed space, and I don't also people having holiday houses. That was never something that I could connect with, because I can't understand how you would want to go back to the same place over and over and over again when you could just rent places anywhere in the world, especially with Airbnb these days. It's so simple, or booking.com, or it's just so easy and simple. So yeah, some people want all their things in one place, and I'm not disregarding that. I do understand that some people out there are like this, but I just could never connect with it. And maybe this is also part of the reason, because we're moving towards it, but also because I am more individual and more collective. And I do have gate 57. So, but yeah, this is just one part of this. The other thing that we need to mention regarding this, the example or the first gate as a lock, is that every cycle always has a fear gate in it. And we are moving from the fear of not being able to make it materialistically, be successful on the material plane, into the fear of tomorrow. So this is the fear of the 57th gate. And it is also a very different kind of fear, as you say. It's in the now. It's not generational. It's right now. What are you afraid of? So this is something that we're going to be more aware of, the fear of tomorrow instead of the fear of future generations sometime down the line. Yeah, it's a lot. But focus on the beginning. So that brings us to the last lock. No? You wanted to add something else?
Yeah, no,
Go.
I'm just saying this is getting heavy, man. Whew.
Let's
Okay.
loosen it up a little bit with gate 2.
Kind of. Yeah. Okay. Hi, guys. So, Gate 2, the plan, is referred to as the plan because it represents receptivity to higher guidance and the ability to align with universal forces, providing us a direction or blueprint for how energy and resources can be applied purposefully. So, we're transitioning from Gate 42, endings, to Gate 51, shock, which encapsulates a profound evolutionary shift from structured completion and guidance to a more dynamic, transformative, and often disruptive energy of initiation. So, with Gate 42, the Gate of Endings, it represents the completion of cycles, learning from experience, and moving towards closure with a purpose. And again, we're kind of feeling this energy now to some extent. Yeah, we're kind of feeling this energy now. But again, like Miko said earlier, with an ending comes a beginning, and this transition, again, isn't just going to happen on February 15th, 2027 at whatever, 10:52 p.m. in the UK, right? Like, it is going to be happening over a longer period of time than that. Think of it as the transition from those more structured cycles to something that can be a bit more disruptive, being the gate of shock, an awakening, a transformation. Miko, you got this. By that, I mean you have this gate. So I would love to know if you're feeling more invigorated, shocking. But think of gate 51 as energy that's bringing this energetic jolt into an individual, into a system, into new awareness, and that can be this catalyst for events. So I think ending isn't necessarily a bad thing, and I don't think shock is necessarily a bad thing. Human design has all of these words that can be a little bit scary, right? Shocking, a little bit scary, but I think this one will actually be pretty cool. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it as well.
I like your attitude. I think that's what it all comes down to, guys. Have a good attitude about all of this, because as Celestino says, the names can sound very harsh in human design, and what I would really recommend is, if you really want to dive deeper into this, is you pick up the gene keys and you read through each individual gate that is going to come up. If you want to do it for the past because you have a lot of abstract circuitry in your chart and you love to dig into the past, go ahead, do that. Figure out what our ancestors have been all about. We are also going to do a few episodes on that, where we're going to look at history and events that happened. This is something that we really are looking forward to understand how the planets were in these times and to relate it to specific events in our history. So for the gate 2 and moving from 42 to 51. So gate 42 is on the other side of, let me just share the screen here. So gate 42 is on the other side of gate 53. And if you remember, we covered gate 53 already in the logical circuitry. This is something that we are also moving into. But we're leaving gate 42. So we're moving into new beginnings in leadership positions. We're moving into gate 51 in the plan. I love this gate, personally. I do have it. I have it twice in my chart, and I do love it. And I don't know how much people love it, but it is a very challenging gate at the same time. But I love the challenge of this gate. So what happens when I come into people's lives? A lot of times there is shock that is going to happen, especially when I start to be in close relationships with them, but also as a coach. I tend to shock people into their potential. And I also shock myself. It's not that I only shock others, but I also shock myself. And this is really the 5125 is about taking the leap, jumping into the void. It's connected to the priest and the priestess. And you can't become a priest or a priestess with staying in your comfort zone, staying in a safe zone, not wanting to go dig deep into the shadows. You have to take the leap. And you will have to take the leap into things that you're not aware of what you're leaping into. In gate 51, this is what it's about. It's about going through the shadows, but you have this strength, this power, this, I can do it. I'm not afraid. This is what this is also about. So don't be afraid, because you have the strength inside of you. You can take on the challenges. Yes, even though it's shock. It's going to be a shock to your system, but it's going to help you evolve into the next stage of your life. So you are, once you go through the shock, you do evolve. And this is how you also become first. You become the leader in whatever it is you're doing. So if gate 51 always wants to be first, they always want to be first. I don't feel it that much, but I maybe also am looking at it from the wrong perspective, because when I'm looking at it from my work, I want my work to be in everyone's mouth, but not because of an ego, because of my ego. I want it because I believe in it so much, and I know how transformative it is. That is why I want it everywhere and available to everyone out there. And yes, so this is where I guess Gate 51 comes in, where it's about wanting to be first. But to me, it's not an ego-driven, connected to my person as wanting to be first. So yeah, this is what I think we're heading towards. All of the above.
So a little bit scary, a little bit, ooh, there's room for growth and opportunity and learning, and it may be okay. I'm an optimist, so I feel like we're going to be fine. I think we're going to be okay. As long as we continue to be really good humans, most of us at least. Just be a good human, man. That's my thought for the new year. Be a good human.
Oh, that's a beautiful thought. Yes, I agree with that. Just keep working on yourself, and this is the perfect year, or not the perfect year, the perfect era to do that. Just keep working on becoming the best version of yourself and let your individuality shine.
You do you has literally never been more aligned than right now. Do you, boo. Just do you.
Yes, exactly.
Happy New Year, guys. Thank you for listening, as always. See you next time? No, I'm going to ask you, if you enjoyed this episode in the new year, I am turning a new leaf. I'm going to ask you to leave a review, subscribe, follow us, depending on where you are listening and or watching, comment, interact with us. We don't really get to interact with humans very much since we're on the other side of the world from each other, so we'd love to interact with you here on the interwebs. So hit us up and leave us 5 stars if you're listening on an Apple or Spotify platform. That would be amazing as well. All right, guys. Ciao.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. Have a beautiful start to the official new year. Bye. The Human Design Podcast.
This goes, is this right? Is this the one that goes directly from the spleen to the throat? The I Am Now channel? It's that one?
Or it can also be connected to the sacral or the 10th gate.
Okay.
The G
but the
and
one
the
that, but in 2027, this
yes.
is directly in the
yes.
now. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I was looking at it today. It is.
Yeah, it should be. It also has the 3420. So we have the 3420 and we have the 57. We do? That's cool.
That's what I was looking at today. I just want to make sure
that
I'm saying it correctly.
We do. That's good.
Okay,
cool. Yeah, sorry.
That's all going to go in at the end.
I kept thinking that we always have... I kept thinking we only have the 3420, which would be a catastrophe.
No.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Focus on the beginnings, not the endings, Miko. Jesus. I think it's important to note that with this gate, it's still in the spleen, but this gate is in the channel that has the correct... Okay. So we are transitioning from gate 42, endings, to gate 2, direction. Oh, sorry, that's not right. Sorry.
No, but that sounds much better than what we're than what we're going towards. I get why your brain did that just now. It's like, that sounds better.
Which encapsulates a profound evolutionary shift from structured completion and guidance to a more dynamic, transformative, which encapsulates a profound oh my god, words are hard.